Okay, cool. All right, so now I see what is here. All right. What was it? It was the letter, right? Or was it?
Yeah, it's the mandate letter.
Where's my search button?
By the Prime Minister. All right. So.
Do you mind turning on my headphones just a little
Oh
bit?
yeah. Let's fix that. Yeah, like get your sound levels however you want them.
I forget which one you are. Does this affect anything? Hello, test.
Yeah, I think that's quieter. Yeah, maybe a tiny bit louder.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that's good.
That's good. You good?
Yeah. Did you notice a change?
Yeah, I think it's like slightly lower.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Do you want it lower?
I think this is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go down. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So, going into this blind, I haven't looked at it at all. Like, I haven't even read a single sentence. Just a heads up. Okay, so let's see. Canada mandate letter, May 21st, 2025. The context, a generational challenge. Canada faces a series of crises in a more dangerous and divided world. Geopolitical risks are rising, threatening our sovereignty. The global trading system, which has helped power Canada's prosperity for decades, is undergoing the biggest transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall. At home, our long-standing weak productivity is straining government finances, making life less affordable for Canadian families, and threatening to undermine the sustainability of vital social programs on which Canadians rely. The new federal government has an immense responsibility to address these challenges head-on with focus, determination, and fundamentally different approaches to governing. We must redefine Canada's international, commercial, and security relationships. In the process, we need to develop a defense industrial policy that secures, so we've got here, big transformation, weak productivity, and global trading systems. Okay. So we must redefine Canada's international, commercial, and security relationships. In the process, we need to develop a defense industrial policy that secures Canada, fulfills our responsibility to our allies, and helps build our economy. So defense as well. Canada must build an enormous amount of new infrastructure, at speeds not seen in generations. This includes the infrastructure to diversify our trading relationships, to become an energy superpower in both clean and conventional energies, to restore affordability to housing, and to secure our borders and our communities. The combination of the scale of this infrastructure build and the transformative nature of artificial intelligence, will create opportunities for millions of Canadians to find new rewarding careers, provided they have timely access to the education and training they need to develop the necessary skills. Government itself must become much more productive by deploying AI at scale. By focusing on results over spending, and by using scarce tax dollars to catalyze multiples of private investment. Our priorities. We will focus on 7 priorities. It kind of looks like it's been written by ChatGPT. It's just like 1. Establishing a new economic and security relationship with the United States and strengthening our collaboration with reliable trading partners and allies around the world. So, numero 1, establishing a new economic and security relationship. Interesting. Number 2, build one Canadian economy. What? Building one Canadian economy by removing barriers to interprovincial trade. And identifying and expediting nation-building projects that will connect and transform our country. 3, bring down costs for Canadians and helping them to get ahead. 4, making housing more affordable by unleashing the power of public-private cooperation, catalyzing a modern housing industry, and creating new careers in the skilled trades. This is interesting in context of what we just talked about the last time we chatted with China and everything.
Yeah.
And that whole transformation. Number 5, protecting Canadian sovereignty and keeping Canadians safe by strengthening the Canadian armed forces, securing our borders, and reinforcing law enforcement. 6, attracting the best talent in the world to help build our economy while returning our overall immigration rates to sustainable levels. 7, spending less on government operations so that Canadians can invest more in the people and the businesses that will build the strongest economy in the G7. All right. Let's see. Go down a bit. Oh, okay. That's it. While fulfilling your core responsibilities, we'll work together. All right. Okay. I mean, that's all sounds good.
Yeah, I think it's really good. Like, I think maybe something that's important with context on this.
Yeah.
Is I'm just learning about this, but this idea of like mandate letters.
Yeah.
This has been the way that the government thinks about like running itself for decades and decades. Is that, you know, you have the prime minister sets up this cabinet of like 10 to 40 people who like run the different parts of the country, and then he gives these letters to those people to say, this is how I want you to run the country. It's the same as like, you know, you have a team at a corporation and they like say, here's your like OKRs kind of thing. The last government, for the first time, made these public. So these were never public before. They were just like internal documents that were used to run things. But when the last government made it public, it actually kind of corrupted the structure of them. Because
Made what public?
These mandate
Oh,
letters.
I see. Yes.
But it kind of corrupted the structure of them, because now they became like these PR things where they were partly to tell people what to do, but they were partly like, here's, you know, what our government does and like why it's so great. And if you look at some of the mandate letters from that time, they are not good operational documents.
Right.
Like you could not actually run your department off of them. Like half of them are these kind of like strange statements that don't really make any sense, but like PR fluff. And so this part of what's really exciting about this is that you could actually like run an organization off this, right? This is actually like very clear in terms of, these are the issues that we're facing.
Yeah.
These are the core priorities that you need to focus on. You could actually refer back to this to say, am I doing my job or not?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that's exciting about it. But then the second thing that's exciting about it is that instead of some kind of like micromanaging approach where there's 20 different letters to each of the different cabinet ministers saying, here's specifically what your cabinet needs to do, this is more like a high level focused set of priorities, and then he's distributing it down to the people who actually know best to say that now go and actually execute against these priorities in some way. And so I thought this was really exciting as a document, like really cool.
Yeah. Is there any way to look at examples of the other mandate letters?
So this, it seems like this is going to be the only one that's put up this time. I think they took down the ones from
Like
last year. They just did it. But if you go to the Build Canada Twitter, I know that we pasted one of them as an example of how this used to look. So it might even be best to scroll down, or maybe just say mandate letter. Yeah. Yeah. Scroll down a bit. No, it's probably best to just scroll on the main feed. I feel like Twitter search sucks.
Yeah.
My bar just came back.
Okay, so I have some questions. So you look at those like 7 priorities, right? And they're interesting. How does that stuff actually get done? You know, it might be a, and like, what is the appropriate way to interact with these what are your thoughts on like the appropriate way to interact with these priorities as like a citizen? Like I read that mandate letter, right? And it's like, you know, that's like a public mandate letter, and I'm a citizen of this country. And so like what is the appropriate way for me to interpret that mandate letter? You can pull it back up, Tommy. Let's just assume that the other ones were shit.
Maybe I can first describe a little bit about how this actually works in government, like what this turns into,
Yeah.
and then about what it means as a citizen. So in terms of how it works in government, I've never worked in government in Canada or anywhere else, and so this is all secondhand knowledge, like the best I can do. But my understanding with the way government works is you can think of government as you have the elected officials, and so those are the set of MPs that are both the Prime Minister, his cabinet, all of the MPs in Parliament, and then you have the bureaucracy, which is called the civil service.
Yeah.
And the civil service is just there permanently. Like the civil service are the people who like do the work, and they don't change over with elections. That they're just always there. And I think there's very roughly about 400,000 people who are in the kind of permanent civil service. And the way that the government governs is the Prime Minister sets the priorities like this. He creates a cabinet of people who run the different departments that the federal government is responsible for. And then those people, that cabinet works with what are called the deputy ministers, who are actually part of the civil service, to then run those different arms of the civil service to actually like achieve specific outcomes. And so that's kind of how day-to-day things are run. The other aspect of how things are run that's important is there's new legislation that's brought in. So like new laws or new kind of like
processes
spending
in a way.
bills. Like, yeah. So rather than like the day-to-day operations, those are the kind of like the bigger changes. And for those, the Prime Minister, the cabinet, and their teams will write that legislation. They'll vote on it in the House of Commons. It'll go through, and then that's how it's actually, the laws are updated in some sense.
Interesting.
And so that's kind of how it'll run day to day. In terms of as a private citizen,
I think it's kind of like, I'm looking this up, and it seems like I just asked like Claude, and I find like what it said is just so uninteresting. Like it said, 1, stay informed. It's like, okay. 2, like, again, that's not inspiring to me personally. Parliamentary engagement. Contact your member of parliament to share your views on their priorities. Again, not interesting to me. The reason is because what is interesting and like what is inspiring to me is like actually doing shit.
Yeah. So the first thing I was going to say is related to this. If you go down to the priorities.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the priorities here is making housing more affordable. So I know somebody who this is actually how they operate here.
Yeah.
For making housing more affordable, they're going to make a bunch of changes to the way that housing gets built.
Right.
And that's either they're going to, in their case, they might set up a new thing called Build Canada Homes, which is going to be an actual government department.
Yeah.
You could go work for Build Canada Homes. So you could actually like say, I'm excited about what the government's doing. They're going to have job postings for Build Canada Homes.
That's awesome.
Or they're going to do things like change
how easy it is to do things.
Change how easy it is to do things. And if you're paying attention to the changes they're making, you could go be a developer. You could say, totally. Oh, they're going to like make it easy to build stuff near transit stations. So I'm going to figure out how to like be the best developer for building housing near transit stations, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what's great about this letter is because it's so clear what their priorities are, you can actually start to take decisions around that kind of
100%.
stuff. And so that's definitely something you could do.
So let's like break this down a little bit. Maybe it's obvious to you, but like I'm kind of dumb, but it's like establish a new economic and security relationship with the United States and strengthening our collaboration with reliable trading partners and allies around the world. So do you want to riff on what that means?
Yeah. A big part of what drives the economy is imports and exports. So, we import these computers from, I guess, the US via China, or China via the US, or something like that. I'm not quite sure technically how you would do that, but like, we have this like import export of all these things. In particular for Canada, a huge part of our economy as for a rich country is the export of raw materials, and that's like oil and everything you dig out of the ground and lumber and that kind of stuff. For us specifically as a country, basically I'm not going to get the precise numbers correct,
Yeah,
but
it's
it's
okay.
something like 70%, or it's something like 70 to 80% of everything we import and 70 to 80% of everything we export is to the United States.
Yeah.
And so our entire economy is exceptionally dependent on the relationship that we have with the US. And it's kind of both at the level of like literally that's people's jobs is importing and exporting stuff to the US, but also at the level of like if we couldn't import certain things, our country just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like more fundamental than even like the dollar numbers. And the US has signaled that they want to significantly change the nature of that relationship. And so getting that right is just it's kind of like a key thing for the country. And the reason it says first thing is establishing a new relationship with the US is because there's no world where the US isn't the vast majority of our imports and exports. You know, like we're just too tight at the hip. So figuring out what that relationship looks like is essential.
That's like fundamental.
Yeah. And then the second thing with finding reliable trading partners and allies around the world is kind of like a hint to say, but we should also figure out how we can be a little less dependent. We're not going to get rid of that relationship. It's going to be essential. Yeah. But like, how do we find some alternatives to de-risk a little bit?
If you look at priority 1 and priority 2, it's like they're both focused on correctly framing the relationships with the most core elements of the system, the Canadian system.
Yeah.
1 and 2 are related. 2 is downstream of 1. Yeah. I just like reading it in different words sometimes can be helpful too. So new economic and security relationship with the United States means Canada recognizes that the old way of doing business with America aren't working anymore. This could involve renegotiating trade deals or creating new economic partnerships, coordinating more closely on defense and broader security, aligning policies on everything from energy to technology, possibly creating new frameworks for cooperation that go beyond traditional trade agreements. So probably forming a more fundamental understanding of what the U.S. priorities are, and then understanding how we can design our country to, work in line with that. Yeah. Strengthening collaboration with reliable trading partners is, like you said, Ben, is about diversification. Canada doesn't want to be overly dependent on any single country. This means building stronger economic ties with countries like Japan, South Korea, Australia, and European nations. Wouldn't it be, I guess they didn't mention China, but reducing reliance on countries that might be considered unreliable or hostile. Why this matters right now in 2025. The world has become much more, and if you know anything about this, let me know, like if specific words hit for you, but the world has become much more economically fragmented and geopolitically tense. Curious if you agree with that, but traditional globalization is breaking down into competing blocks. Canada needs to pick sides and build alliances with countries that share similar values and won't use economic relationships as weapons. Think of it like this. Instead of trying to be friends with everyone, Canada is choosing to be really good friends with countries it trusts while being more cautious with others. Do you have any thoughts on that? Specifically this one where it says the world has become much more economically fragmented and geopolitically tense. I don't really care about the geopolitically tense part, but like the economically fragmented. What does that mean?
So generally, since this is like a very rough picture, but generally since the Second World War, the global economy has moved roughly in one direction of kind of ever more trade between countries, ever more like air travel between countries, ever like tighter economic integration between different nations. And in particular, after the fall of the Soviet Union in the 90s, that like supercharged. Like there was this sense that like every single country was going to be deeply economically integrated with everybody else. So between kind of like 1990 and like, let's call it 2016, there was a sense of this is moving in one direction.
Deeper integration.
Yeah. And there is now, at the very least, there is a lot of talk about less integration. Yeah. And in particular, there's this sense that like, you know, Chinese integration with the rest of the global economy has these like unintended consequences and downsides, because a lot of that integration can be chalked up to China becomes the world's manufacturing hub. And in particular, there's these ideas that China, because it's non-democratic, because it has certain like values that are unaligned to the values of Canada, the US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, that there's like real risks associated with them having so much importance in the global economy with those values behind it. And so there's this kind of, you know, decoupling, or this kind of like breaking out of those relationships. And then over the last, you know, 6 months since since Trump's second term began, it actually, he's brought into question much more just like trading in general. Like, you know, like, yes, like the China thing is bad, but like in general, we're not so sure this is a good idea. For what it's worth, the one thing I would say is I think a lot of that is still rhetoric. Like,
what do you mean?
In the sense that like a lot of this is still like the US is saying we want much less economic integration. There's all this conversation about decoupling. There are even like tariffs that have actually been imposed now. But if you look at the actual economic integration between things, it's not obvious that we've like turned into sharp reverse. Like if you look at like total exports from China, and you look at a graph of that, it's not like it was going up and now it's going down. Like, you know, it's not obvious that we are having this massive decoupling. Like, eventually the rhetoric will turn into that. Like, at some point it has to. But it's not obvious that yet it has actually happened.
I'm trying to find out if this is like a pattern in systems design. Because I thought it was interesting when Trump was saying that, you know, he wants to like re-architect how trade works. I'm not sure what his own motivation is towards that, but I thought it was interesting just from like a systems design perspective. The idea of being able to make something from scratch in a more like localized way, and what the side effects of that were. I thought that was. I'm like curious how that shifts the way the world works, how that shifts the way like technology works, what kinds of technologies we use, what materials we use to make products, because all of those decisions are based on, you know, a certain way of like doing things. Maybe if you start thinking about making things in a more localized way, maybe it increases the amount of parts in particular objects or machines or whatever that are 3D printed. Like, you know, there's all these kind of like side effects that can happen when you change the way that something is made. I was just chatting with Claude about it as well as you were, you know, riffing, and it says like traditional globalization, it's you imagine the world as one big interconnected web where goods, services, money, and technology flowed relatively freely between most countries. Companies could build supply chains that span the globe, sourcing parts from wherever was the cheapest and most efficient. And now, like that term, like economic fragmentation, it's the web is breaking apart into separate clusters or blocks, where countries, can you look up the word blocks, like BLOCS, please? Where countries primarily trade and cooperate within their group while being more cautious or restrictive with other groups. It's interesting. So this is also a thing that I think is worth unpacking as well. It's like that system that you talked about, looks like here it's from like the 1990s to the 2010s, was built on several assumptions. So 1, trade makes everyone richer and more peaceful. The reason why I'm saying this is because like when you're moving in like when you're moving in a particular direction, right? Like they're obviously doing things for like certain reasons, and now they're trying, like, the cool thing is when you have a theory about something and then you fucking go all into it, you learn a lot about, like, you learn a lot of things at the limits, right? Of like what's possible, what makes sense, and you also learn the reality of that way of doing things, like what doesn't work about it, right? So it's interesting for me to think about like what are the assumptions that all of this was like built on, and like what have we learned about where it kind of sucks, you know?
So I think one of the major assumptions that we learned was totally wrong, that the kind of like geopolitical like analyst class had, is that if a country becomes very capitalist, so it has like a really strong private market and this kind of thing, it'll naturally become democratic, and it'll naturally adopt the kind of values that you see in a place like the US, like certain values of like freedom of speech, or certain values around like rights of the individual, this kind of thing.
Interesting.
And so what happened in the 1990s was this idea that the Berlin Wall comes down, and we're going to go to all of these old communist countries, and as long as they become super capitalist, it's going to work out, because we're all going to end up with the same rough set of values.
Why is the Berlin Wall like a reference here?
It's a very clear visual symbol of the of a change from one geopolitical order to the next, basically. And it's that between I can't remember when the wall was first built. I think it was like 47 or something. But like between the end of the 61. I was really
What is
off.
the significance of the Berlin Wall coming down? Like, why is this like a important moment in history? Let's see. This is
So I guess the story I have for it is, it's kind of like a shift in major kind of geopolitical relations, and it was that after the Second World War, the world roughly lined up into two blocks: the communist bloc and the capitalist bloc. You have the Cold War between the communists and the capitalists over the course of the rest of the 20th century. The kind of one of the most clear visual symbols of this is West Germany versus East Germany, because they put this kind of divider between Russia and the West, I guess, in not Germany, in Berlin specifically, because like, so you have East Germany and West Germany. Berlin is in East Germany, but half of Berlin is part of the Western Bloc, part of Berlin is in the Eastern Bloc.
Oh, I see.
And what happens in Berlin is that eventually all of the people in the Eastern Bloc side of Berlin want to go to the Western Bloc side of Berlin, because the communist side is not going very well, and the Western side is, you know, becoming richer, and like everything's going really well for them. And so they build this wall not to keep people in, to keep people in the eastern side of Berlin. No, to keep people in. It's to keep it's the people in East Berlin, to prevent them from leaving.
Oh shit! So they wanted to leave.
They wanted to leave. Yeah, they wanted to like escape to
this.
West Berlin, and they couldn't. And so this wall was there to like keep them in.
That's interesting.
Which is insane. It's generally a good. It's like a good question to ask if a country has like exit bans.
This is really interesting.
And so the reason the wall coming down was
Talking about Berlin Wall.
The reason that the wall coming down was such a good symbol was that it was this kind of end of that Cold War. It felt like at the Berlin Wall comes down, East Germany rushes into, or East Berlin rushes into West Berlin. The Soviet Union kind of collapsed over the course, like very quickly actually, and turned into like all of the Eastern European states that we know of today. And it felt like it felt at the time like the capitalists had won.
Man.
Like the US had just like won the Cold War.
So this
and
is
it was done. We'd like secured the peace forever, kind of thing.
This is a war between capitalism and communism.
Yeah,
essentially. I wonder what the global cultural significance of this is. It's interesting. It was really fucking crazy to have like a city like this that you split in half, and the only difference between one side or the other is just basically a different system design. That's really interesting. I wonder.
Have you seen the Korea satellite images?
No.
This is the capitalists always use this to say this.
You're gonna see like the difference in development.
Yeah,
I see.
North Korea is this kind of like super communist state. South Korea is this capitalist state, and and in some sense, it's kind of like a perfect experiment. It's the same people,
Yeah.
basically. I think historically, I can't remember if the North was richer historically or not. But like it wasn't like some huge divide between them. It wasn't like the North was like super poor and the South was like super rich historically, and that it just. But this is this kind of like perfect articulation of how like different systems with pretty much the same underlying raw materials can lead to like fundamentally different outcomes.
Yeah, it's a big difference. What when in that prime minister that letter, he references the Berlin Wall. I don't know what the exact sentence was, but what does he say? It's above this. Yeah. Let's see. The global trading system, which has helped power Canadian prosperity for decades, is undergoing the biggest transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall. Like, why? I wonder if we could understand why he references that here specifically. Maybe I'm kind of being dumb here, but because I don't understand I need to look into like the broader historical and cultural significance of like the Berlin Wall. But
so I think he's just using it, I think, as like a symbol of a particular moment in time.
But he uses it not just as a symbol, but he uses it as a proxy for size of transformation.
Yeah, and so I think very high level, 1945 to 1990, I think 89 is the wall comes down, but 45 to 90, you have this kind of capitalist bloc, communist bloc. The trading relationships in the world are really defined by how the capitalist bloc and the communist bloc organize themselves.
Okay.
So, the communist bloc has certain kinds of trading relationships with the rest of the bloc. The capitalist bloc has certain kinds of relationships with the rest of the bloc, and they have some kind of relationship with each other. And that's how the global trading system works, is based on these two blocs. From 1990 to the mid-2010s, you have this idea that it's all one big, happy family in some sense, under the, roughly under American leadership. And you have just increased trade between all countries.
Yeah. But why did that increase happen? So I'm just like, I'm just reading it. It says after 1989, wait, hold on a sec. Explain to me how this happened. This might be dumb, but before 1989, picture it. Picture if half the world was completely off limits to you. You couldn't travel there, buy anything from there, sell anything there, talk to people there, even know what was really happening there. 1989. That's not even that long ago. After 1989, suddenly all of that became possible. It's like if overnight a massive wall around half your neighborhood disappeared and you could suddenly access twice as many stores, jobs, friends, and opportunities. About 400 million people in Eastern Europe and over 1 billion in China suddenly joined the global economy. That's like adding the equivalent of the entire United States population 4 times over. Entire countries had been essentially closed for decades, suddenly opened. East Germany, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Russia, China, which began major reforms around this time, eventually dozens of other countries. Sorry, man. Ben, you're going to have to break this down because I'm really dumb with some stuff. But like, can you explain to me like how this happened? Or is there a way to figure out how this happened maybe together?
So I'm not...
like this is a little bit surprising to me. Something about this seems off.
Okay, so there's... I don't know, there's obviously like a ton of very specific things that took place, but I can kind of give you the... my 30,000 foot view of it.
Yeah, please.
Which is that by the end of the Cold War in 1990, you have the Soviet Union, which is Russia and all of these Eastern European countries. And then you have China. And those are the two, together, those make up like 95% of the kind of communist bloc. There are a few other countries in kind of Africa and the Caribbean and so forth, but that's kind of the communist bloc. Two things happen starting in 1990 or in 1989. The first thing that happens is the Soviet Union just collapses.
Yeah.
It's been holding itself up with like paper straws, and I don't know the specific players and how like exactly what they did, but they lose control over this block of Eastern European countries. There's a bunch of color revolutions where the Eastern European countries kind of become independent, And the Soviet Union itself, I'm not going to try and name the players and exactly what they did, but you had a set of leaders that tried to, like, you know, open up and reform the Soviet Union, but what it led to was just the collapse of the old system, basically. And then you have, like, Russia emerge as a country out of it. And so that's what happens in Russia, and that kind of, like, brings down one part of this, is that all these Eastern European countries want to become part of the capitalist Western Bloc, and Russia itself kind of collapses and wants to become part of the Western Bloc. And then in China, you have Deng Xiaoping and reform and opening up. So at the same time. It's at the same time. But
they benefited a lot from this broader change, because he's making a fundamental shift in China at the same time, where they're essentially, like, their market has their overall market size has, like, dramatically increased, right?
Yeah.
Like, now they can serve the entire world.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the difference is, and this is one of these things that we kind of learned in retrospect, the difference is that in China, they shifted how they governed to benefit from global trade and becoming capitalist, but the party remained. The party actually became stronger. Like, the Chinese Communist Party is still in charge, and in some sense is more in charge now than they used to be, because they did it in a different way. The Soviet Union, they just kind of, like, lost the plot and they kind of collapsed. Whereas in China, you had, we're now going to still govern, we're still going to, like, control the country in some sense, but we're going to do it in a different way that makes us very rich.
Yeah. It's interesting. Obviously, then when you look at like North Korea versus, like, South Korea, or the East and West Berlin, which is, like, communism against capitalism. So I guess, like, I could be wrong, but it's like every kind of, like, example you're seeing of these two things at odds with each other, you're seeing, like, capitalism win out. Except here now, you have an example where that's not the case, I guess.
Yeah, I think that, you know, the Cold War was a weird one because it was very driven by propaganda and ideology. Yeah. Like, it was this idea that there's two competing ideologies. And so it's kind of fuzzy, you know, a lot of it in terms of how that comes together. Generally, I do think that one of the things that you can say cleanly about the Cold War is that the Cold War was this kind of, like, proof point that some kind of free market capitalism leads to prosperity versus some kind of state-controlled run economy doesn't. Like, that
was the general belief at that time.
I think that would still be like, I think it does prove that, because, for instance, like China went from a state-controlled directed economy to this kind of, like, state-sponsored capitalism. Like, it is free market capitalism. Right. It's got different kinds of state engagement with that, but the reason it's rich is because of the free market that it's allowed to flourish there. You know, if you didn't, and there is a kind of, like, some basic theory on this, in some sense, that, like, you know way better what to do with your time than the government telling you what to do with your time. You know, and so there's a way in which just letting people do what they want to produce the best life for themselves is always going to be better than the government telling them, right? Yeah. Like, at some level of analysis.
So I was going to ask, like, what are the incentives that drive China's, like, production and growth? But it sounds like you're saying it's some kind of, like, it's like a free market approach with some kind of different, like, container around it, you know?
Yeah, like I think it's the way I mean, this is, like, oversimplified, but I think of it kind of as the individual units in an economy need to be free to act how they want to act, like the individual people, because they just know better. They know better about what it is that they're going to be able to make their lives better. You do have a government which has a ton of, like, money and power and capability. You know, in some sense, you can think of it as, like, the largest corporation in the country with a monopoly on violence. Yeah. And you can have, like, very competent governments that work hard to build certain kinds of things, and you have very incompetent governments that just like sit back and do nothing. Right. And in some sense, you can have a very incompetent government and still a rich country if you have a really good free market. Yeah. But you can't have a totally incompetent government, because part of what the government needs to do is things like roads, electricity, transportation, stuff that
get out of the way.
Yeah. Well.
And enable progress. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly. They need to like enable these, but also there's a little bit of things like you want to give people the ability to like settle contracts between each other, right? And so the government needs to be competent enough that the law courts will actually enforce contracts if people have signed contracts with each other, things like that. And so, I mean, my very, very high level gloss, because I don't understand like the full details of the economic system well enough, is you can think of, you've got like, you go from a China that doesn't allow a free market, to one that allows a free market and has like a competent government doing things, right? Like building infrastructure, organizing things to some degrees. And there's going to be somewhere areas that their government is competent, some areas where their government is incompetent. Similarly, in Canada, there's some areas where our government is competent, some areas where they're very incompetent. But that's kind of how I roughly frame it.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I think I have a better understanding of that now. So if we go back to that letter, and look at that thing where he says the Berlin Wall, let's see if I understand this now, is undergoing the biggest transformation since the fall of the Berlin Wall. So he's saying this is the biggest transformation since we essentially went from kind of like more of like a closed global system to a much more integrated global system, which had crazy systemic effects on like the development of these countries, how we make things, how we function as a human species on this planet. Interesting. So he's saying that it's undergoing the biggest transformation since then. So that would mean that if let's say we're entering a state of transformation now, and we take the previous transformation and try to extrapolate, or even just match it exactly, we are in a state of transformation where the way we interact with different countries is going to change. The way we live as a human species is going to change, and the development of each of these countries, which ones are powerful, which ones are not, are going to fundamentally change, which means the landscape of the world will change, the landscape of culture will change. Which countries are rich, which countries are powerful, how things are made, everything.
Yeah, and whenever you have big changes like this, there's also a change in like what it means to be a country.
Like what do you mean by that?
Like in the sense that it's not this idea that the world is broken up into sets of units called countries. Like I, for instance, think that it's like a good thing, and that there's reasons why we would want that to continue into the next period. But like what exactly it means to be a country is a thing that's constantly in flux.
Is it in flux?
I think so. So there was a period where the idea that there's like 190 odd countries in the world right now, and they each have clearly defined borders, and basically every square inch roughly of like the map is like under a particular sovereign country's kind of area of control, and that it gives them certain like rights in the way that they should be able to talk to each other, etc. That's that even as an idea only really got started in the last 100 and a bit years. In the idea that there were countries and each country was distinct. I think I do not know this history well enough, but if you look up like the Westphalian order, it's West and then one word, Phalian. Yep. So the Westphalian system. So 1648. So the first idea that you had like states that were sovereign over specific sets of territory that could like interact in this way where we think of them as different countries having structures, 1650, like 1648. Like before that, there were no rules, like there were cities here and there, and they like maybe there was an empire that had its sense. But even at this point, the rules only applied to Europe.
Right.
Like they created these rules, but then they thought of the rest of the world as like just territory that we can go and like conquer or take or whatever. Right. And it was only in like the 1800s or so that it started to become clear that like every country could be distinct and they could all fall under a single shared system like this in some way. And even within that system, even within the idea that there's a country within these borders that has a government and all these kinds of things, exactly what that means is constantly shifting. Like a government that and you can, even with technology, right? Like a government in the early 1900s that could communicate with the different outposts in the government with like telegrams is actually very different to a country where we can jump on video calls or where we can fly.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Totally.
And so like the exact nature of what a country is and how
deeply it integrated is how deeply is it integrated? What aspects of it matter? What aspects of it don't matter? Obviously, like if there's like technological changes, you know, that in terms of like what human beings can do, it doesn't make sense to like keep pretending like those things aren't real, and you know, operating with like an obsolete sense of like functional abilities or whatever, like you're saying telegram, right? And like, yeah, there are side effects when new technology is created, right?
When, and an example of this is like we think that like we have borders now between these countries,
right,
and they're really clear, and you can like say, well, if you're in Canada and the US, if you're in like, I'm going to get these dates like slightly off by a few decades or something, but like let's say it's like 1890, you don't have like ID cards yet. You know,
really?
So not in the same way. Like maybe you have maybe you have some
like we
kind
have
of
this crazy
passport
integrated system. Like you go with your passport, you scan it.
Yeah, and like maybe you like you get
database.
like taxed, and when you get taxed, like they refer to some number that's in some system that says, oh, you have like a social insurance number or a social security number, this kind of thing. Like let's say it's 1890, you can just walk into the US.
Really?
You know, like they don't have like the technology to stop you. You sound the same. You kind of like, you know, like they kind of have like this, like you're like roughly the same person. You have like a sense of how their system works well enough that you don't stand out. You know what I mean? Like, and so in some sense, the borders have actually, even though we say, oh, our borders are super open now because we have like visas that mean that you can travel back and forth super easily. In some sense, they're actually much more rigid because there wasn't a system to be like on top of it in the same way.
They gotta like find a clue to figure out you're Canadian. It's like the Inglorious Bastards where he's like,
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that movie. Damn, that's crazy when you like think about it that way. It's very easy to look at the current state of things and assume that it was always like that. It's hard to fully internalize that, like when you see that the world functions a specific way, to internalize that these are systems that have evolved over time, like iteratively, and because they evolve over time iteratively, like they can continue to change and be shifted. I looked up like just extrapolate like how the concept of a country might change. This is like, this might be interesting. So the 21st century, let's just say first, currently we're witnessing trends challenging traditional definitions of what a country is. Okay, hold on. Let me read this first. 20th century, states and global systems. International law and global institutions like United Nations, WTO, World Bank shaped a more structured global system of sovereign countries. Borders solidified, international recognition became essential to legitimate statehood. Countries developed clear administrative structures, public services, citizenship, rights, and obligations. So now, 21st century contemporary changes. Currently, we're witnessing trends challenging traditional definitions of what a country is: globalization and interdependence. Increasing economic interconnection reduces the effectiveness of borders, trade, communication, labor movement. Multinational corporations, NGOs, and that's an interesting thing too, these multinational corporations, which is a whole other crazy thing
very
to
quick
think
aside,
about.
like, you know, I've heard some people frame it this way, that like if you work for Google, you have this huge layer of lawyers and HR people and like internal structure that in many ways your life can be cared for and managed more by your relationship with that company than with any particular country.
Wait, you gotta say that again.
So like if you work for Google, if you're an employee at Google and you're one of the hundreds of thousands of people that work there, and you work in like Ireland or something, your relationship to Google can be in many ways more important than your relationship to any particular country, because they can abstract all of that away. They can move you to the US on a visa. They can figure out all your tax for you. They'll like manage all of it precisely. You can use their daycare. They have figured out like, you know, this like structure and abstracted away all of these things, so that in many ways this multinational corporation, for you as a citizen, your citizenship in that corporation has this greater impact on
Totally.
your life than your relationship with your country.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it just goes again to the thing you were saying about the concept of a country is like continually shifting, right? So let's say there's like a slew of services that a government is offering, and they've decided to offer those because they believe that those services enrich the lives of a citizen of the country. And then you have like a corporation that is now creating better potentially services. Then again, and now it's kind of like it kind of maybe becomes obsolete in some way, right? Or redundant. And so then they have to adjust or adapt.
Yeah, this is, do you know Balaji S. Srinivasan?
Yeah.
This is, I think, a huge part of his project that he's interested in with the network state is this like questioning what like a state really is in the 21st century when you have the internet and everything. And I think there's like, there's very roughly two camps that I think about this, and I think of them as like split between this guy Peter Zehan and then Balaji. And Balaji is something like, okay, these new technologies like the internet, like crypto, as well as the structure that we have means that your statehood and the way that you operate as a citizen is much more dynamic than it used to be. You can be a part of this network state, and that can be...
It's Balaji, Balaji. Balaji.
S.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, networks. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. So here's the idea that like you can build these network states, and I think this idea that I said about companies comes from him. Like he's like that's a proto network state is one of these giant companies that like manages all this stuff, and that's kind of one side of where we could be going. And then there's Zehan, which would who I think takes the
I don't know him.
Opposite side, and his perspective is something like, well, all of those things that you're describing are built on sublayers that still rely on exactly the kind of economic structures that we've built previously. Like, you know, if the electrical grid stops working, you know, who cares about your network state, you know?
Right.
Like
there's an underlying system that everything is built on top of.
And he's like, okay, well, so the focus, it has to be the underlying system.
Right.
If you're focused on the underlying system, eventually you get back to who has the guns that controls this area,
right?
And who has the guns that controls this area is generally thought of as your government's kind of thing. And so
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn. So let's go back to this 21st century contemporary changes because it's in line with this. So globalization and interdependence increasing. We already read this. Digital transformation. Online communities, cross-national boundaries, creating global subcultures. That's already happening. Well, I guess that's like another thing that's happening too now. It's like you have like the internet. Now it's like you're starting to divide up the internet, which is like wasn't happening before. The cool thing about the internet was that it was going to be a way to link the whole world in terms of the way that we could talk and share and broadcast to each other. But now it's like seems to be it's like they're fragmenting that, which I think sucks. I guess because of the risks. I don't know. I guess of like what can happen if a particular application is getting particular data about this citizen or that citizen. It just sucks because the original like exciting thing to me about the internet was to like link the world's information, to link the world's individuals. It just becomes so much more uninteresting to me when it's this fucking thing that I'm like, oh, I think like, I don't know the details of this, but it's like if Canada is controlling like the media, I can see, and that kind of stuff is so fucking lame to me. Like, but I get it. Like I wish there was a way to do this that was just more interesting or inspiring and just like a little bit like more sophisticated and like, you know, like figure out the underlying system, but just keep the interconnection going between like different cultures and stuff like that. Maybe it's like naive thinking, but like there's videos you can find on YouTube. It's just like a dude walking through China. Like you can I think like I don't know what you'll need to look, but it's just like 4K steady cam, just a dude walking through China. Like different cities. I think you probably find it for like any city. Night walking. What the? This is
Italian.
just go explore. Yeah, let's see that. Yeah, Shanghai. Yeah, so it's just. Yeah, it's just like this guy. It would suck if like. I mean, I have other thoughts on this, but it would suck if like you're not allowed to like look at this or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
you
this
know,
is, yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I don't know.
Have you ever seen this, Tommy? It's cool.
Yeah.
I've seen this because I was there.
Yeah.
My bad. I'm
Nice.
like, I know I was walking. So I
This just looks like Mississauga.
yeah.
It looks like
They got that nice kind of shrubbery in Mississauga.
this looks like UTM.
Yeah. Man, I want to go to UTM so bad after you started talking about it.
This
We have-
literally just looks like UTM.
We
man.
have China at home.
Yeah, so sorry, online communities cross national boundaries, creating global cultures. Digital citizenship and virtual identities may become as influential as national identity. This makes me think of that. I don't know if they're still doing it or how it's evolved, but it makes me think of that Estonia place where
yeah.
you can get like citizenship in Estonia, and then I think you only need to go there for like a limited amount of time or something. You can like vote online or something like that. But
So one thing I'm really
Yeah.
excited about from this letter is that he mentions AI
right,
twice.
head on, yeah,
Head on.
twice.
Twice? Yeah. So,
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
so the first is AI is going to totally transform the economy.
Yeah.
Great. Like, like this may sound silly, but like I think there's a lot of like people in governments who don't even recognize that yet.
Right.
They don't even like recognize that this is going to be like totally transformative. So it's going to be totally transformative. And then the second thing is we need to use it. Like we need to use it in order to make sure that we're the best version of ourselves in some sense as a government. And I think that's really exciting. We've talked about this, right? Like I would like a government that knows what the best technology is and then uses it as effectively as possible to fulfill their priorities. And so, though I've heard, for what it's worth, I've heard that Carney is very offline. so although he like recognizes this, I've heard that he is not a Twitter user. Like he is not in the deal flow, so to speak, with it.
maybe that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it means that he'll actually be able to develop like a good perspective on it. But at least it's like recognized,
Yeah, let me riff on that a bit, because when I read that, there's well, let me finish this thought on the country
Yeah,
changing.
sorry, my bad.
No, and then we'll get off this. If I can even find it again, man. I might have lost it. Shit.
It's right there.
No, I got it. Okay, so I'll just jump to this quick part because it's like, so it gets maybe it's less boring. Okay, so increase supranational. This is extrapolating the next 10 to 50 years of what the concept of a country. So increase supranational cooperation. Nations might yield more sovereignty to international bodies, creating federated or regional government systems that tackle global challenges, possible superstates or stronger regional federations, the European Union, African Union, networked countries. Digital technology might lead to more fluid, dynamic concepts of countries. Citizenship might become layered, national plus global digital citizenship. Whoa. Countries could compete for talent digitally, offering digital citizenship for remote workers and knowledge economy participants. Kind of builds on what you're already talking about with the relationship an employee has with a company. Series 3, rise of autonomous regions and city-states. Decentralization could accelerate. Fragmentation and conflict. Nationalism and identity conflicts might continue to fragment existing states, creating new countries or conflict zones. Scenario 5, hybrid sovereignty. Countries might share sovereignty over certain issues like climate governments while maintaining strict national control in other domains. What the fuck? Okay, so cool. Got it. So let's say the country, the concept of a country is can be like fluid. But let's dive into this, right? the combination of this scale, the combination of the scale of this infrastructure build and the transformative nature of artificial intelligence will create opportunities for millions of Canadians to find new rewarding careers, provided they have timely access to the education and training they need to develop necessary skills. And then it says the government itself must become much more productive by deploying AI at scale, by focusing on results over spending, and by using scarce tax dollars to catalyze multiples of private investment. Yeah, so this is obviously really interesting. I'll just say something, and I don't mean to like be like negative, and I don't mean to like make this I don't mean to like flatten the conversation, but it might be useful, right? Mm-hmm. Like to like break this down a little bit. So I just want to be honest. So when I read this, my first immediate thought I had was, yeah, fucking right. Yeah, fucking right. Like, I just want to be honest. Right? Yeah. Like, and maybe that's like revealing in itself. Like when it says the government itself must become much more proactive by deploying AI at scale, it's like, yeah, fucking right. Like we have this AI is like really interesting technology, right? Because like you have certain people that are like using it so much, and it's actually like really easy for an individual to adopt these AI based tools and integrate them like deeply into their lives like very quickly, right? You'll notice like online there's like a lot of conversation or speculation on what the kind of like value limit is on like a company of one. When are we going to have the first $1 billion company that's only a single individual? Yeah. And like that's the interesting thing about this AI stuff is, yeah, like just as an individual, you can just start putting your process, designing systems around it, and like using it more and more, and then it's cool because you as an individual start to discover that you can do so much more, right? But another pattern is that this kind of stuff is like very hard to integrate into like larger organizations because I'll riff on this because I'm not in a larger company right now as this technology is like proliferating, but I'm just gonna riff. It's like it seems like it's much harder for companies to integrate this technology than it is for an individual to integrate this technology, right? Mm-hmm. Because you have like all of these like organizational systems that are built around the idea of people, you know, and now you have this thing where it's like, oh, we can just do this with AI, or we can just do this like faster here. I don't know. It seems much slower to integrate, right? And yeah.
So I think there's like, you could say there's like at the very base level, there's like a lot of politics to it, right? Like part of what could happen with an AI is you have a department that currently has 1,000 jobs. And part of it is that a lot of those jobs, an AI could actually do that job, like at 95% to 100% of the job. And so it has 1,000 people right now. If you use the tool as well as you could use the tool, it'll only have 100 people. I don't know, making it up. Part of it is like there's 900 people who are going to fight you. Yeah, they're going to fight you really hard to use it. And so I think there's like lots of different problems, but like at the very least, that's going to be a problem that's going to slow you down, right?
If I had to like just go off based on my gut instinct, like if I had to like, as we continue breaking down this like letter, which is fun and interesting, if I had to, like break this thing down and like make my gut instinct bets on what I think is like actually gonna like, be interesting and not interesting, this last sentence I'll put in the category of not interesting. I think when they actually try to implement this, I don't think they're going to achieve. I will be very, very impressed if they achieve like some sophisticated integration of like AI systems, like he's saying, at scale, where it fundamentally re-architects the way the Canadian government works, in some way. It's exciting. But I think what's very interesting is so if you look at this sentence, it's actually broken down a little bit. So maybe I should say the government itself must become much more productive by deploying AI at scale. Okay. That sentence, that first part of it, I'm like, I don't know, right? That's going to be tough. I'll be very impressed. Not trying to be like a downer.
Yeah.
I'll be very impressed.
I feel the same way for what it's worth.
Yeah. By focusing results over spending. Now, I think it's possible to focus on results over spending in a kind of non-AI sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're able to, unless there's some like way of taking inventory of this kind of stuff using AI that I'm not aware of right now, which like totally could be the case. But I think like a non-AI analysis, not like a typical focus on results over spending, I think is very possible.
Totally.
Like let's tighten stuff up.
I think for the results of a spending thing, a super good example of this, I think, is the kilometers of subway you get per dollar,
Right.
or like the cost per kilometer of subway.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make up these numbers, but like they give you a rough sense that like maybe you used to get like 1 kilometer of subway for every $5, and now you're getting 1 kilometer of subway for every $30. Like that's the kind of scale of change that's happened, even if inflation adjusted. Like we're terrible at this compared to how we used to be. But what the government announces isn't we're giving you this many kilometers of subway. It's we're spending $80 billion on subway.
Right.
And it's like, oh, we put so much money into building subways. Aren't we doing a good job? When actually they're not getting anything for the money.
Right.
And so I think that's when I read that
you might
statement,
see a different way of framing these kinds of like bets,
Yeah.
which would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But this is what I think is like very possible. It seems to already be happening, and it's like interesting. I'm curious how you think this like will roll out. And it says, and by using scarce tax dollars to catalyze multiples of private investments. So the way this is worded here, it says, by using tax dollars to catalyze multiples. So it sounds like this is saying like, hey, we're gonna use an approach where you have like a total private investment amount, right? And they're gonna catalyze most. So maybe like add on top of it, we'll double it or triple it. That's really interesting.
Yeah. One of just to plug it, like one of my favorite things that we did with the Build Canada memos is we wrote one about Shred.
Yeah.
And how you could take the same money that's currently used on Shred and apply it in different ways. There's a program in Israel called the Yosma program, which our recommendation was roughly modeled off of, where instead of giving these tax credits based off of filling out these forms, which is often done by like big companies with consultants that try to prove that they've done interesting research and development, etc. You could do follow-on investments where did
they do that there? They did follow-on investments
in Israel. Yeah. Basically, they basically said if a private company gives you $1 million, we'll also give you $500,000.
Really?
Yeah, and it led to massively more private money.
Of course. Yeah, because it's like you're getting your overall risk is going down.
Yeah.
Like if you give this person this much money, they have this additional capital. That gives them more time to figure stuff out. It gives them a chance to maybe hire another smart person that can do something that changes the game.
100%.
That would be crazy.
Yeah,
that would make it fun to be an entrepreneur here.
Yeah, and you would feel like the country believed in you,
right? You're fighting for your country in a way.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, like I think there's a huge cultural shift there, right? Like that the country thinks success is good. It's not like you have to like do certain things according to like our values that fill out in this form in the right way. It's like, nope, just the fact that you're successful, that you're getting approval from the market means that we believe in you too, that we want you to succeed. We're going to put our money where our mouth is, like all of that. Like it's actually like great culturally.
Man, I hope that happens. I think that would be like really, really fun environment to be part of, especially as someone that like is an entrepreneur and like grew up here. That'd be really cool. But what's interesting as well about that part of the sentence is that he references it in addition to AI, like it's coupled with that same idea. So to me, that indicates like they're probably saying focusing on investing in AI relative to deploying AI at scale.
So
right.
Yeah, I mean,
because you see, you know what I mean. Right? They're connect. It's he didn't say, he's not saying that, or this letter is not saying that they're going to be using scarce tax dollars to catalyze multiples of private investment in like business sectors. he's saying that he's saying that directly after he says the government itself must become much more productive deploying AI at scale.
So, I mean, my read of it is that this is kind of like this section is basically saying like, what's the environment and how are we responding to the environment? It's saying we've got all these massive changes geopolitically.
Yeah.
And in this last one, he's saying, and one of the key things that has to change to respond to this environment is our priorities and how we like achieve them. And we have to be results oriented. We have to be focused on like boosting the private markets, and we have to be focused on using AI, the most advanced technology, to achieve it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I see. Yes, you are right. The last sentence is a summary.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
And it's a summary of like how I expect you to work. Like
Got it.
I expect you to be using great technology, to be focused on your results, not how much money you're spending, and I expect you to be working with the private sector to capitalize it rather than just using tax.
Yes, that's right, for sure.
My sense with this, for what it's worth, I have the same, like, my gut response is the same as yours. If I hear use AI at scale, I'm like, I don't really.
Well, especially
like,
the government.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't put my money there.
100%. But at the same time, it is what I want them to. It is what I would like them to do. Like in the best possible world, that is how I would want the government to work. And there are governments that work that way. Like Estonia did actually work that way when they were setting up this kind of digital government infrastructure, right? Singapore works that way to some degree.
In terms of like using
most advanced technology, actually being very organized with it, etc. And so at least they're saying it is my sense, you know, like it would be worse if they weren't even like saying that that's what they were going to do or wanted to do.
I was thinking about getting my citizenship here a while ago, when I was first hearing about all this. Estonia has reached an extraordinary milestone, becoming a country that digitalizes 100% of its government services. As of December 2024, every service, even filing for divorce, can now be completed online, marking a new era in citizen-centric government.
This is the high point, by the way, for good government services. You know that your government's really helping you when they make it super easy to file for divorce. That's this is where I want the focus to be.
I just gotta use the washroom. Maybe you can riff for a sec. Sorry, or we can pause.
Can we pause? I
sure.
I guess we're pausing.
Pause means like we just walk away.
Yeah.
Pause means I just talk to the stream.
Oh, you can put like a black screen, right?
Oh, I can, yeah.
audio still on?
Yeah.
Dope.
I remember watching this show when I was like a little kid and being like scandalized by it.
Wait, what do you mean by scandalized?
Like because they were like, I don't know, like it was like taboo in some ways
Yeah.
because like there were all these things about it that were like, you know, not
Oh,
allowed.
can you shut that door again?
I can do it. I actually never watched the show. But
If I remember correctly, it's like very
it's crude.
crude. It's super crude. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, back into this letter, man. We're live still, by the way.
Yeah, this like
What?
Not the
this
Saturn.
is like it's
Estonian.
a little like government and political stuff. And I'm
Oh,
like,
sorry, man.
no.
You're the
I obviously love it. Like it's it's just
Good,
not,
good save.
yeah.
you're the only person I can talk to about this. I have no one else to. There's nobody else I know that talks about this.
I spent like most of my I spend too much of my time thinking about this. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Well, that's how I get the brain dump,
Let's go.
right? Because, yeah, there's no one else that can really like explain this shit to me. Okay, so go back to the letter, line by line.
Line by line.
This is a good exercise in reading. I'm very glad. By the way, this is great. I'm really enjoying this. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Wait, what insight did you just have?
Oh, it was just like I read this when it came
Yeah.
out, and I thought about it. But actually, reading this carefully is like very helpful for me as I
Really?
think about like what the government is going to be doing, how they're thinking, exactly what's going through the PMO's like nerve center, and what they're framing on this stuff is. This is like really helpful.
Cool.
Also,
Yeah.
I'm really happy about this letter.
Right.
Because I know we didn't look it up, but you should have seen the last ones,
Yeah.
man. This is really good. Yeah.
Like I'm looking at this is like a shit letter from a CEO right now. So whatever was like from before.
I
This
know.
is like a basic. Like this would be like basic ass. You know.
I'm not going to name any specific companies, but like just imagine some large Canadian corporate
Yeah.
that isn't Shopify, that's just
Yeah.
like some existing company. This might be like a reasonable like letter that they might send to
Right.
like, you know, their teams.
That's all right.
And that's all right, you know.
Yeah.
I personally, I love reading when like Toby's memos leak or
Yeah.
like whatever. Like I love reading that. I love great business writing like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite get to that level,
No.
but it's a step in the right direction.
No, this is basic as hell, man. It's like this is saying like, hey, we're gonna make sure people have houses. we're gonna, you know,
Should
like
have seen the last ones.
yeah, I believe it. You know?
You're
We're gonna-
really framing up the
We're
last
we're going to from now on, we're going to be productive. You know what I mean? It's like it's like whatever in context, but whatever. It's cool though.
Yeah.
It is interesting though. Like go up to the 7 things again.
Yep.
All right, so where are we on this thing? So we broke down the establishing new economic. You're cool, just continuing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
good. So we've broken down the establishing new economic security relationship with the United States and strengthening blah blah blah. We've talked about AI and like the multiples of private investments, which would be super super cool if that happens in like a compelling way. Okay, so building one Canadian economy by removing barriers to its interprovincial trade and identifying and expediting nation-building projects that will connect and transform our country. Interesting. Okay, so there's this expression they're using here, which is building one. Yeah, exactly, man. Building one Canadian economy, and I feel like you looked into this already because you know there was like some online dialogue about it or whatever. But it's like maybe. Like I'll look up some stuff too, but maybe you can riff on like the way this currently works.
So I have
If you know.
Yeah, I have a few high level riffs. So first high level riff is in some sense building one Canadian economy is the reason Canada existed in the first place. That you can have this telling of the founding of Canada that Macdonald wanted to build a railway across the country.
Right.
And so you figured out how to organize this into a state and build this one railway across the country to create the idea that there could be one country like this. And so there is some way that, like, deep in Canadian identity is the sense that this is a vast landmass with very different people in very different places, and figuring out how to create one interconnected economy through transportation, through laws, these kinds of things is a hard project. Like, it is a tough, focused project.
It is, or that's the assumption?
It is.
It is, yeah.
Like, it actually is. It physically actually is. Like, Canada spends more on like transportation infrastructure for the things that need transportation on like a per head basis than basically any other country, because it's just so big. Like, like within Ontario, you can travel from one side of Ontario to the other, and it's the same distance as like London to Moscow.
Can you look up like what is the size of Ontario, like, relevant to other countries? You might have to use an LLM. Oh yeah, I guess Google's getting pretty good now, but
if you have images, they might have one of those
an area larger than France and Spain combined. What?
Yeah, it's really like, I gotta tell you, as somebody who like comes from the UK, which is like a tiny little island, it is hard to describe just how vast this country is.
Holy fuck!
I don't know why I looked that up.
Yeah, see, the thing is that, oh yeah, I guess that does show it. Damn, I guess it was right in front of our eyes the whole time. Like, look at it. Look at relative to the states below.
The entirety
Holy
of
fuck! Look how big Quebec is. Holy shit!
It's insane.
How big is Quebec relative to others? Is Quebec is bigger than Ontario?
I don't know.
What are the sizes of the Canadian
provinces relative to countries?
to
Yeah.
other countries.
Yeah,
in the
good.
world?
Good. Let me search for current data on the Canadian province sizes compared to countries worldwide.
I want Vin to be my OS voice whenever we reach that.
That voice,
Yeah.
or is it that voice in particular?
Exactly that voice. I want him to say good morning to me like that. Good
You
morning.
can pick different tones.
It's my Jarvis.
Canadian provinces are enormous when compared to countries around the world. Let me break this down in simple terms. Okay, understanding the scale. First, let me explain what we're measuring. Area refers to the total land and water space a region covers, measured in square kilometers or square miles. To put this in perspective, Canada has a total area of about 10 million square kilometers and makes up about half of the territory of North America. Canada is the second largest country in the... What the...
Oh, what?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, right? Okay, so Quebec...
Oh, I didn't realize it was that.
Yeah, it's huge. Dog.
I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was second.
Yeah, it's just us and Russia.
And just
Just us in Russia.
we have a third the population of Russia.
There's no,
Nobody here.
100% this country's getting invaded, man. 100%. There's no way. This doesn't make any sense. It's this massive
We're
landmass.
making invasion bets.
No, I'll bet on it.
Man,
I'm telling you, guaranteed. I'm guaranteed.
A third of that letter was about sovereignty. A third of that letter
Guaranteed.
was about that.
Guaranteed. What, like, think about it. It's like all these, like what are we doing here?
So
We're bigger than China.
but the reason
What?
Yeah, we are.
The reason
Go look at Canada, man. Flip that map. Flip that Earth. Look at that thing, man. Look at the fucking size of it, man. And it's just like some people just showing up there and they're like, "This is ours." This is so stupid. It's just like everyone's like, "All right, man." Like everyone here is like really nice. You know, they're like, "Okay, fine. You can have this massive landmass."
Okay, but so the just for us, the reason I think it gets it and Russia are so large is because the vast majority of it is like frozen wasteland.
In Canada, you
Yeah,
mean?
Canada.
What,
Like the vast majority of it is totally inhospitable. And historically, in terms of like a security perspective, the reason it's okay is that you're not coming in through the north. You know, like it is so impenetrable. It is so difficult. Like coming in through the north from an
Oh, you
invasion
mean like
perspective,
invasion? Yeah.
is like so impossible. And so in some sense, all you need to do from like a sovereignty perspective is trust the southern border, trust that the US isn't going to invade
and then protect the north.
and then protect these like two tiny coastal ports.
Right.
Like if you protect like Halifax and like Vancouver, like it doesn't really matter up north in some sense.
The most likely invasion routes.
I feel bad talking about this. I feel like we need to.
The overwhelming majority of Canada's population and is concentrated within blah blah blah. Windsor, Quebec City corridor, Lower Mainland, energy infrastructure hub. Canada has 3 ocean coastlines, creating multiple potential naval approach routes. Halifax is a major naval base and shipping hub. Pacific coast are key ports. So how do we invade this shit? Key. Oh wait. It was key strategic targets. So Toronto, Montreal contains nearly half of Canada's population and economic activity. So what are they gonna do, man? Military and government facilities. Go down. Wait, let's see. Modern considerations. Go up. This is just a list of like its attributes.
Mm-hmm. So I think
Canada has enormous strategic depth. Routes for moving troops and supplies. The ability to deploy military power at a distance. Yeah, man. Canada. No. The reality is that Canada's vast size, harsh climate, and geographic barriers make traditional invasion extremely difficult, which is why historically Canada's main security concerns have focused on cooperation with allies rather than defending against invasion. That's makes sense. Like we don't have like really any people here.
Yeah. The only
this is crazy, man. This is such a weird country.
The only thing with there's sovereignty stuff with the US, right? Because the US, even without invading, could like cripple our economy and so forth. And so if we don't have a good relationship with the US, there's serious sovereignty questions there. There is this increasing sovereignty question about the North, that because the climate's getting warmer, the ice is melting. There is a ton of activity from Russia and China, where they are testing the like boundaries of Canada and like how much we will quote unquote like defend our sovereignty there. And so there are actual like genuine like military questions around like how good our sovereignty and our defense is in the north of the country.
I'm not trying to be like negative, because I know this is like
It's a good disclaimer.
it's like I know this is really important, you know. Canadian culture is really important. This country obviously like means like a lot of things to a lot of people. I just want to just say what I'm thinking. It's like kind of like man, this makes no fucking sense. This makes no sense.
But
you know what I mean? Like there's this is fucking this is a massive landmass. This is so huge. There's like not a lot of people here, man.
So I love that it makes no sense. Because another example.
We're all like hugging the bottom,
sense.
like we're just like, you know what I mean? It's like, look at that thing. It's so fucking big, man. This is like, it's like it doesn't make any sense.
It's beautiful, man.
It doesn't make any sense, man.
Why
is none of it grayed out? Is it all like ice? Is that what that means?
I think it's like rock, yeah, something like that.
Really?
Well, like
that's all rock.
Rock and ice.
What does none of it look like?
Maybe if you just go to satellite.
Whoa, what the fuck? Wait, it's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Top things to do and none of it.
Dude, let's move to none of it.
No, man. Go to top things to do.
Man, I don't know if I would move that, but I want to.
This site is a lonely planet.
I want to like spend time in these places, you know?
Of course, yeah, it's beautiful.
Like, they're so pretty, yeah.
Immerse yourself in Iqaluit. Get a taste of tundra and Sylvia, Grinnell. Wow. The parks there and stuff are probably insanely beautiful.
The road to nowhere. Even their names are crazy.
Step inside the England-inspired cathedral. Yeah, it's like insanely beautiful place, probably. Of course.
Oh, you wanted satellite images?
Yeah, well, just to understand why it's gray on the... you can even just look at the map and just turn on satellite.
Yeah, Google Maps.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Man, What a massive landmass. When you look at the heat map of the population that he pulled up, it's interesting because even in the provinces, like you're kind of just hugging the bottom.
Yeah.
Like they're not even moving up the provinces.
Well, one thing I find strange about the heat map. What is that color? Is it like scrub?
Oh, it changes slightly, right?
Yeah.
You got to zoom in, I guess.
I guess it's like scrub. I feel like, yeah, it's
I
like
don't know
rock.
what scrub
It's
is.
like rock with like tiny little bits of green, almost like grass, kind of like shrubs. Like,
Looks pretty tough to invade.
yeah.
No, man, this shit's easy. No, it genuinely is.
Yeah.
Just send like whatever their drones are and send them in.
I don't know.
I don't think this is like hard to invade.
Man, I don't think it's really harsh up there.
Really?
It's like drones don't work. Like batteries don't work up there.
Really?
Yeah, like
What?
it's too cold. It's too cold for batteries to work.
Oh, what?
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, it's like, you know how like it's like minus 40, like a significant portion of the year.
No.
No.
I think they're good. I think they're just
think
being
they're
nice
good.
now.
I think
There's like missiles and shit.
Yeah.
There's all kinds
Oh
of
no,
shit.
no,
They
no,
don't
for sure. But I mean, in terms of like, it is actually
Extreme temperatures regularly below negative 40 degrees Celsius, creating severe logistical and operational challenges. The presence of sea ice, shifting ice flows, and frozen terrain significantly complicates naval and ground operations. The Canadian Arctic archipelago alone compromises over 36,000 islands. This is like half the fucking world is like our country.
I don't know. I could go out to
And it stretches thousands of kilometers.
the planets in Google Maps.
Yeah. Few roads, ports, and airstrips exist. Any invasion force would need to build its own infrastructure. Canadian and allied surveillance and defense capabilities provide sophisticated early warning radar systems and satellite surveillance and comprehensive airspace monitoring, detection, and interception of foreign incursion are extremely likely. Continuous real-time observation of northern regions using satellite surveillance. Technological factors, drone and unmanned aerial vehicles offer reconnaissance capability, but their effectiveness is limited by severe weather and limited base infrastructure. No successful invasion or even sustained military incursion has occurred through the Arctic region. Wow.
Sorry, you were saying something about the population map, Ben?
Yeah, no, it's just interesting that even when you look at the population map, it's like kind of like hugging the bottom of the country. With the if you look at Ontario, it has that little like dip on the bottom.
Yeah.
And you could see the closer it gets to the U.S., the more population there is. It's just really interesting, man. It's like it's fucking nothing going on here, man.
Well, so I think it is.
It's a really fascinating. It's a very weird country.
Yeah.
This is probably, I would say, in my opinion, the weirdest country in the world.
But
I would say right now, that's how I feel about it. Because it's massive. Is there any other country where they have fucking this much like space per person? No.
I think the only other one is Russia. It's the only other one that comes close. Well, actually, no. You know, Mongolia is like that as well.
That's what I was thinking.
Mongolia
Yeah.
Just like other countries where the population doesn't make sense relative to
to the space.
Yeah,
even if the
Mongolia,
space is actually not that
Kazakhstan,
much.
like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Something about this is very interesting.
So I think it is very interesting that
Yeah.
our government wrote this letter of its key priorities, and the
Yeah.
number 2 priority is like make it a working unit.
Yeah.
You know, it's like this thing doesn't make any sense. We need to prioritize making sure this thing works as a single coherent unit.
Yeah.
You know,
How much younger is Canada than the U.S.?
US is 1776 and we're 18.
Let me see.
Sorry.
How much is-
1867.
I wasn't sure.
1867.
I wasn't sure if you wanted me to check.
So I think we're about 100 years, about like 100 years, about
Yeah.
100 years younger.
Yeah, so it's 1776 versus so we're 91 years younger. So my question is, the development difference
Mhm.
between the U.S. and
Mhm.
Canada, is it 91 years
Mhm.
of
67.
development
Mhm.
difference, or is it,
There's
you know
this
what I mean?
amazing speech. I love this from this guy, Laurier.
Yeah.
So I've been like looking into the like past Canadian leaders, and this guy Wilfrid Laurier is by far the best speaker. Like he speaks so well. His speeches are so good, and he has this speech called Canada's Century. It's pretty short. It might be the first thing. Oh, it's not recorded. It was before video. It's only written down. No, I think that one has a transcript. Anyway, so he has this speech. It's worth reading the whole thing. It's just like a few minutes. It's pretty short.
Okay, sure.
But well, we don't need to read it now necessarily. But in this, he's doing this in like 1900 something.
Yeah.
Like 1904, and he basically has this idea that like, you know, the last century was the U.S. finding its sea legs, becoming this kind of major global power, important force.
What century was Wilfrid Laurier in again?
1900s. So
1900s.
this is right at the beginning of the 1900s. And you're like, the 1900s, they're going to be our century. And by the end of this century, he says we're going to have 70 million people or 80 million people, like double the current population.
Yeah.
So we're going to have double the current population. We're going to have this huge industrial base. We're going to have all of these like, we have all of these things. Maybe I got that number wrong.
It's okay.
I remember reading it and thinking that it was like way bigger than our actual population now,
Yeah.
right? Like after 2000 has passed, and there is a way in which like Canada, you know, Canada has this ludicrous potential as a nation. There's this way in which you have unlimited resources per person. You have unlimited like food, water, all of that kind of stuff. You have all of this land to build on. You have this incredibly, I almost want to say like forgiving culture. Like you have this culture that actually accepts, at the very least accepts people to join the culture. Perhaps it doesn't accept like entrepreneurship and that kind of like bold vision making in the same way as yours, but it is globally. If you look compared to like global cultures,
sure.
it's still pretty good. Like it's really good on these fronts. And so there's a way in which like it seems like it should be able to become this like vastly wealthy, vastly important country.
Right.
And we've been thinking this for like over 100 years. There's been this sense that should be the case.
Yeah.
But there's some way in which, you know, we've risen to the average level of what you'd expect, and not the kind of greatest version of it. And so
I think that part of it is because like the size of a country has nothing to do with the you know, the overall like the innovation and the output and stuff like that. That's probably like part of it
for sure.
Interesting. I was looking into why is it. It's kind of maybe obvious, but I guess the climate advantage is like a big one with like the U.S. I think like obviously it's in the same way where you know, with the North being like colder or whatever, and they can't like invade. Man, if the climate here was different, this place would have been like definitely not what it is now. Just like, you know, whatever the population is here, just people just kind of just sitting all hovering around the bottom trying to stay warm.
But to your point about it's less about the land and more about the people. Singapore is this perfect example of it sucks. It is just too hot. It is swampy. It like there's nothing good about it. It's in the opposite direction.
Really?
It is 32 degrees and humid every single day of the year. It's like not fun to be outside.
Really?
But they were able to create this incredible economy because they were like, well, but what really matters is people and air conditioning.
Really?
You know, like we can actually like create a space.
That
that's
was a
going to
key
be-
element of what they did, was the people.
Well, in the sense that like they had good people who like tried to build a great country
Right.
in that sense. But like one of the very first things they did was they installed air conditioning in every single government building. It was like when they took independence, it was like one of the very first acts, with the theory being, if we want to be able to be productive in this awful, place, we need to be at like a good temperature.
Yeah.
And so
I wonder.
yeah.
I wrote this note here. We can go back to the letter too, like
Mm.
keep processing it. But, wait, I'll come back to this at the end. But let's look up that point we were on, which was like one Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Building one Canadian economy by removing barriers. So we kind of went down this little rabbit hole
Mm-hmm.
where we looked at like Canada and we're like what exactly is this thing? So by removing barriers, so what are the barriers right now to interprovincial trade?
I think it's basically described as like non-tariff barriers, and so it's things like you have packaging requirements. So if something is packaged a certain way for Ontario standards, it doesn't count in Manitoba. You have standards for if you're a trade. And I'm making these ones up, but it's things like this. Let's say you're an electrician in Saskatchewan and you get licensed to be an electrician in Saskatchewan. You have to get a different license if you go to Quebec. And so it basically makes it very hard to move between countries, both goods and people, and have the economy self-sort.
So fucking dumb.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really silly.
This is so fucking dumb. Wow. Holy shit. You have like, oh my God. This is the weirdest country. Because you have this huge landmass with a small group of people all kind of huddling at the bottom. And they can't even like work together effectively. What the fuck? Yeah. Examples of barriers include different, like you mentioned, professional certifications, restrictions on selling certain products, such as certain goods, such as alcohol, dairy, varied safety, regulatory, and labeling requirements, forcing businesses to adapt products specifically for different provinces. So fucking dumb, man. Oh my God. Oh man, removing these barriers would likely involve creating consistent national standards for products, safety regulations, and licensing, harmonizing rules and qualifications, making it easier for businesses and individuals to operate nationwide without additional red tape, reducing legal and bureaucratic hurdles so that businesses can easily scale across provincial borders, enhancing competition and lowering consumer costs.
The one-liner on this is, for most businesses, it is much easier to figure out how to sell your product into the US than it is to figure out how to sell it into other provinces in Canada.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb.
Yeah, this is from 2023, but the vast majority of businesses who did not purchase 89.5% or sell 88.2% goods or services across provincial or territorial borders cited no need or interest in doing so.
What does that mean?
So 89.5% of businesses did not purchase across provinces, and they did not sell. Like 88.
They're just like, fuck this. Like kind of what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked up what are nation building projects. So kind of obvious, but these are large scale infrastructure initiatives designed to fundamentally connect, unify, and strengthen the country. Historical examples include Canada's railway system and national highways. I wonder how long that took. High-speed rail corridors connecting major hubs, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, or Calgary, Edmonton, significantly improving productivity, energy infrastructure, digital connectivity.
Can we look up the first Canadian railway? I've forgotten its name. If you just look, if you look that up, it'll So
this is it.
First cross Canada. Maybe it's the first cross Canada.
Why is this interesting? The first train across Canada from Dalhousie.
Yeah, Canadian Pacific Railway. If you click on the Wikipedia. Okay, so
CP.
oh no, that's the. Okay, I'm not quite sure what to Google to find this, but
Yeah.
if you look at maybe the last spike, because there's this photo and for sure, and then last spike Canada photo.
Canadian Pacific Railway, last spike. A
That might be it.
final was driven into the
Sorry,
ceremonial.
Oh yeah, that photo. If you check, that photo is sick.
this one.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Was that bigger?
So
They did it.
this will say how long it took probably.
Yep.
Yeah, it says a ceremonial final spike was driven into Canadian Pacific Railway (CPR) at Craigielachi, British Columbia, at 9:22 a.m. on. It's cool they documented that.
Yeah.
November 7th, 1885. It was driven in by CPR Railway financier Donald Smith, Baron Strathcona, and Mount Royal, marking the end to a saga of natural disasters, financial crises, and even rebellion that plagued Canada's first transcontinental railway from its beginning.
Okay, so it says there was an 1871 commitment to build this, and so it's done in 1885. So
Oh,
they had
that's
all
not
these
bad.
disasters, and they were 4 years off schedule. And
That's not bad at all.
and this
no?
was the largest railway in the world.
Wow.
When this was done, this was the longest railway on the face of the planet, so that you could have one interconnected country.
So what's since then? What's an infrastructure project we've done at this scale?
So
And how long did it take?
So the next one that I think is really cool, that's much more recent, is the St. Lawrence Seaway. So this was basically a series of canals and locks and these kind of things to allow ocean-going freight onto the Great Lakes. So they could
Oh,
come.
shit.
So you have ships like this size that if you see Hamilton, like Hamilton is now like a port that ships like this dock
Can I see
at.
that image?
This one or this one?
Yeah,
And
the boats.
And so there were these, and you can see where this was created, right? Like with the straight lines on both
Oh,
sides.
they like opened that up.
Yeah, and so you can now go in from the Atlantic into
Nice.
into the Great Lakes. And if you
Hamilton,
drive
You can go in from the Atlantic into the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
Like how?
So via the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Can we see like an overhead view of the St. Lawrence?
Mhm. It's with
That's
a W.
pretty cool. Oh shit. Whoa.
Yeah.
I wonder how long that takes.
Sorry.
Um,
Oh, here.
so there is a map that is, I think, is just
There's a better one.
so there's a map that shows ocean-going trade, and it's like black on white, and it shows it's something like 1700 versus 1990.
These sea vessels, like living on these, it's a whole different life, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a whole different way to live your life. Just fucking like I wonder what they do. These aren't like autonomous, right? Someone's driving these things?
Yeah.
I guess.
They're navigating.
It says it typically takes 8 to 10 days for a cargo vessel to travel from the Atlantic Ocean to a Great Lake such as Lake Ontario or Lake Erie using the St. Lawrence Seaway. 8 to 10 days, man.
No,
Oh man.
that's not that bad. I thought.
No, that's bad. I mean, it's not
10 days.
That's a long time, man. Look, like if you look at where it comes in from like the St. Lawrence River,
Yeah.
well, I guess I don't know. I guess you could
Yeah.
compare it. I guess you could compare it to how long it takes driving. But I'm pretty sure like
Well,
driving
it's definitely longer than driving, but.
Yeah, it's way longer, yeah.
But not that
week
much
doesn't
longer.
sound
I
that
think
bad.
if you were to drive Thunder Bay to Quebec City, it's probably at least 48 hours.
19.
Oh, no, I was totally wrong.
I think
completely
like if you
off.
drive from here to like all the way to like Newfoundland or something, or like New Brunswick or something, it's like 2 days.
And maybe Sault Ste. Marie is further away than Thunder Bay. I don't
13
know.
hours. Oh shit.
Driving's fast.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
driving's really
this
fast.
is
That's
this is
what
8 to 10 days,
That's what I'm
man.
realizing.
This is 8 to 10 days.
Well, there's like, if you think about it, it's just one
Yeah.
street, really.
But I also think there's something called like the way these systems work. I think there's something called like locks. See how it, like it has to go slow and then it drops
Yeah,
down
yeah.
and then it drops down. That must be so boring, man.
Oh wow, this is how it works.
Yeah, it keeps getting lower and lower and lower.
Oh, that's
It's
insane.
not. Yeah, it's not just. It's not just like they're just like cruising down that
Yeah.
thing.
So how does the ship go? Sorry, it's a stupid question.
They're
but
called locks, I think.
So you can see this in some places where like there's ones like the ship goes into the lock. The
okay,
gates
literally
come up,
elevates it
gates
lower.
come up on both sides that
Yeah.
block off the water on both sides.
Yeah.
And then the water level in the area that it is either goes down or
Yeah.
goes up, and then the gate opens and it goes down the other
Yeah.
side.
So you're just
do
waiting.
They literally like enter an elevator
Yes.
for boats.
Yeah. Exactly. And then they like they're just sitting there for 10 days.
Yeah, that's sick.
It's interesting.
So
Ships must navigate through a series of 15 locks from Montreal.
15.
Yeah, from Montreal to Lake Erie, which significantly slows transit.
That's why it's 8 to 10 days.
Passage through each lock takes approximately 45 minutes to an hour, plus wait times for traffic and scheduling. It's like the QEW, man.
St. Lawrence
It's the
River is the QEW
QEW of the ocean, bro.
boats. Of the ocean.
So in terms of infrastructure, I think
Yeah.
this was 57, maybe 67.
Yeah.
One of those dates off by a decade.
Let's see.
57. Say it's 57.
71.
No. That St. Lawrence Seaway,
How many years did it take to make this?
54 to 59. Oh, I got the middle date.
5 years.
Not
Yeah.
bad.
So that's a huge one. It's very fast. It's very fast compared to what we think of for like our like our infrastructure projects.
What was that train station called? First.
Canadian Pacific.
I can't remember the name of the actual line, but like if you search the Lost Spike, it comes up.
This?
Yeah.
What else?
Construction time was 1954 to 1959 for the St. Lawrence Seaway. The Seaway required massive engineering efforts, extensive dredging and excavation of channels to ensure ships could navigate inland waters safely, coordination between two countries, Canada and the U.S., involving political, diplomatic, and engineering collaboration, highly complex technologically, required careful management of water flow, ecological considerations, and this is a cool project to actually like work on this as like an engineer.
There's amazing photos. If you go to like St. Lawrence Seaway construction photos, there's like gorgeous photos of it coming together.
Whoa.
Yeah. Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah. I compared the difficulty of this project with the railway that went across the country. So some things, the duration of the St. Lawrence Seaway was 5 years. The Canadian Pacific Railway was 5 intensive years, 10 total. Engineering, they had access to, the Seaway had advanced large-scale hydraulics and civil engineering, locks and dams. With the Canadian Pacific Railway, it was manual labor, blasting through tunnels, laying track through mountains, rugged wilderness. Holy fuck. Technology. With the St. Lawrence Seaway, there's modern machinery, concrete, heavy excavation equipment. With the Canadian Pacific Railway, you've got basic explosives, manual tools, and minimal machinery. Environmental challenges. Man, respect to these guys for building this railway, man. Like, especially like a lower population and stuff. Like, these people dedicated their lives to this like project. It's like really cool. Some of them probably died too.
This is also the first kind of major point of Chinese laborers in Canada.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so this is like, if you want to think about like who built Canada and how they built Canada, it's also very important from that perspective.
So like a lot of Chinese people built this?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not in these photos, but
Yeah, I read that on the last Spike Wikipedia page.
Not in these photos. Why? That's just like a narrative thing?
yeah, it's just that.
That's
there's
fucking
like,
lame.
Contribution
Yeah.
of Chinese laborers during this
That's
project is
fucking
largely
lame.
overlooked.
Yeah.
In fact, no Chinese person has seen
Why
the
are
last
people like
Spike
that,
photo.
man?
Yeah.
But it's weird, even if I look at these photos, there's like no.
Well, but for these photos, these look like they're candid photos, but,
Yeah.
but they're not.
They're
That
not.
these are all
They're
like very
staged.
staged. Yeah.
All right, get to work.
Jesus.
So, yeah, labor conditions for the Seaway, it's relatively safe, mechanized. For the Canadian Pacific Railway, it's dangerous, physically demanding, significant loss of life. Fuck, man. This railway system still in use, right?
I assume all of the literal bits of this have been replaced at this point. But yes, like there are still trains going across the country.
Oh, here, this image right here. Early Chinese workers. Yeah. That's crazy, man. Yeah.
Kept deal to join BC with nearly formed Canada 150 years ago.
Okay.
What's that?
So yeah.
I don't know all the details, but my understanding is that this railway was a big part of literally why the country was formed. Or a big part of the narrative of how the country was formed is that we're going to come together, bring all these provinces together, form a single federal unit so that we can afford to and manage the construction of this kind of infrastructure.
Interesting. They must have been so proud when this thing was done.
Yeah.
Like, so much hope and belief.
Longest
maybe.
railway in the world.
Yeah.
We've just founded a brand new country. This is our infrastructure project that proves that we can do like amazing things.
Is it still the longest railway in the world?
No way.
No, not anymore.
I mean, maybe.
I don't think so. I think I looked it up. I don't think so. I assume in Russia, right? Like it's just so big.
Size doesn't mean everything.
Jeez.
Russia.
Yeah.
Beijing, Hamburg Railway, Trans-Canada Railway. It's still up there.
Yeah.
It's third. It's the third biggest.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. No, this
I
was
don't know.
68,000 in India. Indian?
System.
Okay, so yeah, so the optimizations that can be made across provinces for one Canada. Number 3. Sorry, man.
No, it's just funny how deep we can go on this point.
I was like,
I mean, this is how
great. This is great.
Yeah.
Like, because that's because these aren't random. They are actually like they are written in this way in order for this reason.
They're
And
not
like
random.
we are actually going into the reasons why these are, you know.
I don't know how to say this, but this isn't like this for me. This isn't like a forced thing that I'm just like randomly doing. Like
No.
when I'm like going into something, this is like pretty normal for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, like cool. I want to read this letter.
I think this is modeling what like great intellectual rigor looks like.
Well, I don't know, man. I'm just reading this fucking blog post.
I don't know, so.
This I'm reading this.
I was just curious about how big Canada was.
I'm just saying.
Reading this fucking. Okay, so number
Look at
3.
that bang.
Number 3, bringing down costs for Canadians and helping them get ahead. So it was funny to me when I read this as like number 3, because like and everything else, because it's like so like it's so nuanced and like so specific, and we're like breaking down a thing, establish a new economic and securities relationship, build one Canadian economy by removing barriers and interprovincial trade, and it's like bring down the costs for Canadians, help them get ahead. It's like it's like what the. Bring down the costs.
There's a reason why it was there.
Make it more chill.
If I had to bet the reason why this one's there, I think this one's there in that way because they felt bad that they hadn't like focused on like everyday people's like pocketbooks yet in this list. And like that's because that's what a lot of people like vote based off of. That's like what people care the most about normally when they're electing a government is like, you know, am I personally going to be like wealthier as a result of this? And so I think a big part of I think the reason that it's the third like that and the reason it's less technical and specific is because otherwise it would be too far down the list and it kind of
you think it's just there to be nice kind of thing?
No, I think it is actually a key priority, but I think the reason that it's written like that and that it's out of place, right? Like if you look at it's much shorter than all of the other ones. It doesn't have these like technical specific ways around what it is that they want to do and how. Like I don't know. There is something about it that seems like it was put there for some set of reasons that are slightly different to the other ones.
Right. Yeah, probably. I don't really get it, but whatever. So next one is, it's cool. It's interesting, I guess, because it's like, as we're like breaking it down, we literally can't, I don't even know how to dive into this one, but.
Yeah, me neither.
Number 4, making housing more affordable by unleashing the power of public-private cooperation, catalyzing a modern housing industry, and creating new careers in the skilled trade. There's a whole bunch of shit happening about this behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
Like 3D printing houses and stuff like that. I wonder, I wonder if they can even do that yet.
So there's two. So there is 3D printing of houses. They have these like cranes that shoot cement, and they like
Oh,
basically like outline the house in cement. And then the other thing that they talk about here is modular housing,
yeah.
where you basically create factory lines to produce parts for a house, and then you assemble them on site
Yeah,
later.
I've heard of that. Which is really cool.
It's a really cool idea, but it doesn't. We've never really got it to work. And there's a really interesting breakdown of this on by this guy Brian Potter on something called construction physics.
Yeah, you brought him up before. I've been trying to dive into his work a little bit more.
Here he talks a lot about modular housing because he worked at a modular housing startup for a while. Like he really knows this space, and there's a lot of transportation costs. So yes, you can make it in a factory, and maybe it's cheaper making it in a factory than on site. But you'll often eat up a lot of the costs associated with like that piece of thing in transporting it somewhere. Because like moving a bit of a house is like very expensive. It's hard, right? You think about the trailers you'd need, stuff like that. But then the other thing is, because of the way that rules work for houses to be created in different parts of the country, to get the savings from modular housing, you need to be able to create a lot of houses that look like that, like a lot of these parts.
And people don't like that.
Well, people don't like that, and it's illegal. Like
it's what?
Illegal. Like the kind of house you could build in Toronto is actually different to the kind of house you could build in Hamilton, let alone like Vancouver. And so to create the pieces that are going to work in all of those different areas, it hasn't been able to scale. Like, and so the modular housing in theory should work really well. Like in theory, it should like really decrease the cost of building houses, but nobody's yet like really figured out how to actually get it to work.
How did China build stuff so quickly? Is that just a function of like their population?
I don't know all of the specifics well enough. I'd say that one big thing people talk about is there's differences in the law around how projects get approved. So in Toronto, if you want to build a house, you have to like go to City Hall and you say, I've met all of your specifications like this. And then they give you a permit and then you can go and build the thing. The two differences in that process with China are, one, there's just a lot like fewer of those specifications. Like the total number of specifications you need to meet to get the permit are lower. But then the other thing is that if the government in China wants a project to be built, and the government has wanted a lot of projects to be built, there's less robust mechanisms for individuals in China to like prevent the government from doing it. Oh, I see. Whereas in Toronto, if you want to build something in Toronto, and like this happens all the time. Like there's a neighborhood, and I want to build like a small apartment building that has 4 units in this like neighborhood that's mostly houses, and people will fight it tooth and nail.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of tools to fight it, and it'll delay it and delay it and delay it and just make it almost impossible. And I think there's much less of that localized decision making and what's often called like vitocracy that happens in China.
I try to understand like what he's talking about here when he says catalyzing a modern housing industry. I think like it's probably interesting to dive into like what that is, what defines like modern housing. I wonder what like the latest technology is on all that stuff. Some of the things, when I look it up, some of the things that come up are like prefabrication and modular housing, 3D printing, robotics and automation. I don't know. Prefabrication and factory construction, on-site assembly. Next 5 years, trends and patterns, increasing adoption of modular and prefabrication, expansion of 3D printing in mainstream housing, growing regulatory and market demand for sustainability, smart homes become standard, AI data-driven building management. It's interesting.
So I have a critique of this.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Which is that a lot of that, the idea of like having a modern housing industry here, and making it affordable in that sense would imply that, let's say you buy a house and it's $1 million, it would imply that like $800,000 of that is like the cost of making the house, right? When you look though at like $1 million house in Toronto, about 50% of it is actually like soft costs. And so it's taxes, or it's legal fees, or it's they had to like apply to get different permits and that kind of thing. It's only something like 30-40% is the actual cost of the home. And so if you wanted to make houses more affordable, like the fastest way to do it is going to be reducing those soft costs. And that's basically making it like legal to build houses.
Yeah.
More so than we could for sure make that portion of it that is like the actual cost of like the lumber and the labor and all that kind of stuff lower, but it's not going to be the biggest way to impact it.
The other interesting thing is that so many people have like their finances like tied into these like this the housing, right? So it's like when you like it's like when you like just massively increase the supply of it, it's kind of interesting.
100%. This is
there's like a kind of like an incentive issue there.
Well, you have a massive problem now.
Yeah.
Because you have, let's say, you know, on the whole, you have like, you have a portion of the population, houses are too expensive, they can't own a home. You have a portion of the population, their house has got really expensive, so they're really wealthy.
Yeah.
And there's a single number. You can't actually like keep, it's, you know, maybe you can do things at the edges that sort of manage this, but like you can't really do one without the other. You can't say everybody who's got a house that's super expensive, it's going to remain super expensive.
Yeah.
And we're going to create a bunch of really cheap houses for these people who don't own houses. And like you can create like very complex mechanisms where like the government builds all these homes, but they only sell them to people who've never bought a home before. And then they sell them at this kind of reduced rate. And so like you're like really playing with the levers to try and maintain, but ultimately it's a supply and demand thing.
For sure.
Like if you create houses that are affordable for people, you will bring down the price of the houses which aren't. And so you're in like a real double bind.
I wonder how they're actually going to play that. I wonder also like how somebody with like a bunch of like home equity, I guess it doesn't seem like it's like a big sticking point. Maybe people don't really care about it too much. I don't know.
I think it's deeply...
I think in reality, like I think if they like really come up with some interesting way to actually pull this off, then that would probably be like, if they're like, we can build like crazy number of houses per month, then I think that would be like a really like a serious kind of thing for like all the like some of these people. Yeah. It's a big cultural change in like Canada too, right? It's like isn't it like the biggest asset class or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. Well, and it's definitely, there's a cultural thing. There's like a cultural thing that's like in people's heads that you own your home and it becomes your nest egg and it's like your source of security and all these things. But yeah, it's really hard to know what to do about that. I think the one thing I really like about the way they've framed this is that if you were to massively increase the rate of housing, so these aren't the exact numbers, but they've said something like they want to double the number of housing starts, which is like how many houses are getting built per year, from like 250K to 500K.
Holy shit!
Over the next, which would be
over the next what?
Over the next 5 years, something like that.
Damn,
I can't remember
crazy.
Precisely the numbers they used, but it's on that order of magnitude. Yes, there might be serious loss to home equity for a bunch of people who own homes, but not only will it make houses affordable for people who currently don't own one, there will be a massive boost to the economy, because all of the construction, like there's all of these people who will need to jump into the skilled trades to actually build these things. There's all of these like new companies that'll have to be formed in order to create this. There'll be all this new like infrastructure that needs to be built to create these new neighborhoods. And so it'll be like, yes, there'll be some people who lose because of their home equity, but there'll be so many extra jobs. There'll be like so many new industries. There'll be all of these ways that like people can be testing out modular housing and stuff like that, and potentially becoming like globally competitive companies. It should be good for the economy overall.
Yeah.
even if there are some losers, even outside of the housing issue.
I think that makes sense. So moving on to the next, Canadian sovereignty. I'm going to leave that alone.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah, attracting the best talent in the world to help build our economy while turning our overall immigration rates. Kind of obvious, like what this is.
Yeah. Just say personally, yeah. I'm thrilled that they haven't attracting the best talent in the world, because so many countries are moving in a direction where the only thing that they could say here is returning our overall immigration, because you know, public sentiment is moving against it. To even like motion to the idea that immigration is still important, I think is really valuable.
Yeah.
Personally, that's just my opinion.
They could have just changed it to retaining too.
Yes. 100%.
Spending less on government operations so that Canadians can spending less on government operations so that Canadians can invest more in the people and businesses that will build the strongest economy in the G7. So when they say so that Canadians can invest more, they're just talking about the government's tax dollars, right?
I think so.
Or are they talking about lowering taxes?
I think they are talking about greater efficiency, which may mean lower taxes, or may just mean that the government is more effective with the tax dollars. Like it definitely means greater efficiency. It's a little vague, because spending less on government operations so that Canadians can invest more. I mean, that does sound like tax cut. That does it does. It does sound like tax cuts. That is actually what that reads like.
Yeah. Spending less on government operations so that Canadians can invest more in the people and businesses that will build the strongest economy in the G7. Fuck, man. That'd be insane.
Yeah.
Strongest economy in the G7. I think I have a good understanding of this letter now.
Yeah. Me too. I did not know. I did not understand this letter until we did this.
Okay. All right. There's one more thing I wanted to. Oh wait. Well, Tommy's not even here, so let me just mention. Guys. Let's see. There's actually I can look it up, I guess. One thing I just want to do to round out this this topic. So when China did their when they kind of like reshifted the way that their country works, do you know what their mandate letter was like? If you will, you know what I mean? Like these are our priorities. I wonder.
I don't know the specific documents that could be most equivalent, but I can give you a cool fact.
Yeah, sure.
So China's really big.
Yeah.
You've got 1.3, 1.4 billion people. And it's not as big as Canada, but it's pretty big. It's like physically pretty big. And so when it comes to managing that from the government, to manage that many people and to manage that many members of the party, because there's like 100 million members of the party, they use something called TIFA.
TIFA?
Yeah, if you...
I'll look it up.
Yeah, and it's basically TIFA, I believe.
And just type in China?
Yeah. And then the translation should be something like slogan.
TIFA, China, slogan.
It's like a word. It's like 2 characters. TIFA.
Oh, 2 characters?
Yeah.
TIFA, in the context of the Chinese Communist Party, refers to coded political terms, slogans, or key phrases used to communicate policy directives.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's TIFA.
Coded communication.
So you'll hear phrases like one country, 2 systems, or reform and opening up. And these are translations of these TIFA. And the reason that these are used is that it's such a big country, it's so difficult to manage all of the different members of the party that instead of having well, not instead of, but alongside having the rigorous written out letters and plans and things like this, there are these like slogans that you're meant to memorize and understand and use as like a local party official, as your kind of like your equivalent of these priorities.
Really?
And that's kind of like how you manage in some sense. And so when you have like when you look at like Xi Jinping thought, when you look at like the letters that Xi Jinping writes, it's often structured around these slogans so that you can then use these slogans as a local party official to say, I'm doing this because of this slogan. So, Amazon's like 13 core principles.
Oh, I'll pull them up.
So Amazon has these like 13 principles, and there's things in there, I think I've got this right, that are things like disagree and commit and stuff like that. And the idea is that in meetings at Amazon, you can use these principles to explain why you're taking a decision.
Yeah, Shopify had that too.
And so the TIFA are the exact same thing, but in the Chinese context. And so a big part of how China governs is with this. And one of my favorite, this isn't quite a TIFA, but it's related. I recently wrote this out, so I should be able to remember it. It's I think it's 不管黑毛白毛. I can't remember the second half.
Yeah.
But it's basically, it doesn't matter if the cat is black or white. If it catches mice, it's a good cat.
Yeah. That's like a famous one.
Which is one of Deng Xiaoping's quotes. And so like it's phrases and ideas like that are used very often to govern like the direction of travel in China, just because it's too large to do otherwise.
TIFA literally means formulation, phrasing, or method of framing or conceptualizing in Chinese. It refers to a political, strategic, or ideological slogan or formulation, often a short, powerful phrase that clearly encapsulates and communicates a government's key ideas, priorities, or directions. TIFA are central in Chinese governance and policy making. They're carefully chosen to guide public discourse, carefully clarify policy directions, and unite stakeholders towards shared goals. Let's see. Classic examples of TIFA under Deng and latter. Reform and opening. Deng's signature phrase starting in 1978, signaling a radical shift from Maoist isolation to pragmatic economic reform. Reform and opening.
I had made a mistake earlier. I knew as I said it that I'd made it, but I want to clarify. I'd said earlier that the Berlin Wall came down around the same time as Reform and Opening Up. It was about a decade later.
Oh, okay, my bad.
No, it was my bad.
These are interesting, though. This is like Reform and Opening. There's another one here that's crossing the river by feeling the stones. This is cool. Seek truth from facts. Let some people get rich first. Damn. This is cool.
And it's
socialism with Chinese characteristics. Wow.
This is very closely related to the idea that idioms play a huge role in the Chinese language just generally.
Yeah.
And so these are similar to Chinese idioms in that there's like a ton of information packed into these like very short number of characters, like 4 or 5 characters next to each other, 4 or 6 characters next to each other. And this is kind of using that aspect of the language, but in a political context.
It's interesting how these things are like so memorable. When I worked at Shopify, there was a lot of stuff like that too. That was like really sticks with you. I even remember it now. Like default to open is like one of them. It's interesting.
What my favorite Shopifyism that I've heard is "say the thing." Is this a Shopifyism?
I'm not sure.
No. Oh, I've heard it from a bunch of Shopify people, which is around trying to combat this way that people can be like, I don't want to say ruffle any feathers. Yeah. Say the thing.
Okay. I think we're done with the letter. Because that covered the last thing too. I don't know if we even I don't know if you have the energy to, but I was going to say the other thing I wanted to dive into was maybe we can just like have a cursory thing on this and like wrap. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was AI and learning. We probably don't have. We probably need to do another session on this. But maybe you can just riff a little bit on like what you learned when you went to that school in like Austin, like what you saw. Because I saw a video that was like talking about how these like kids are like spending like something like 2 hours in school or something with AI augmentation, and they're like in the top 1% or 2% or something.
Yeah.
Like what exactly is happening there? And maybe we can talk about that deeper next time.
Yeah, the rough structure of this school, and they've got it from everything from like kindergarten to high school now, is all the kids they structure it in terms of mastery learning. So they don't think of kids as progressing from year 1 to year 2 to year 3. They think of them as progressing down skill trees. So go as far as you can in maths, go as far as you can in science, like that kind of thing. They don't wait for you to like finish grade 4 worth of science before going to grade 5. They just like go and learn as much science as possible, which in some sense makes sense. It's just like learning. They just want the kids to learn. And the way that they do this is they want to make academics to compress the amount of time you spend doing academics so that you can spend more time doing like more interesting projects, social skills, whatever. And so they sit you down for 2 to 3 hours a day, and I think it's different at high school and before. But instead of having a teacher individually teach you science and teach the whole class science, you're given a AI tutor in science, and you spend your 2 to 3 hours just progressing with that AI tutor in science, pushing you through it.
Do they have like some homework or something that they're working through? Like what is the basis of the prompt?
So have you ever used like a Code Academy? Or it's literally just like that. Like when they say AI, like yes, sometimes now they're using LLM powered
they're not just using like ChatGPT or something.
I think they are now sometimes using things like ChatGPT or like LLM powered, but it's like Code Academy in the sense that like they know that you need to learn these 50 skills or these 50 things about science, and so they have like a system to push you through these 50 things.
But
about
also
science.
using LLMs.
Yes, yeah. Like some of the tools are LLM based. Some of the tools aren't. Like some of them are like maths, for example, and you're allowed to like talk to an LLM, I think, in order to like learn about the maths. But like the answer is just write down the number that they're asking to get to the next kind of phase.
I see. So it's a combination of like you're moving through stages, because like I sent you the video and like why is that? Why is it so anchored on the idea of AI? What is the school? What can you say? Or?
What is the school?
Yeah, the
like
name
Alpha
of the
School?
school.
Yeah, Alpha School.
Alpha School Austin.
Yeah, Alpha School Austin. Though they're now expanding to other cities as well.
It's a private school. Alpha.school. Let's see. Missions, insights. Oh, they share their insights too. It's Alpha School Austin is a private school that combines cutting edge technology with personalized one-on-one instruction to empower students to rank in the top 1 to 2% nationally. Why Alpha? A school where kids crush academics in 2 hours, build life skills through workshops, and thrive beyond the classroom. How big was this school when you went there?
It's pretty small. I can't remember the exact numbers, but you know, more like dozens than hundreds of kids.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Many dozens, but not. Yeah.
So it's not just they're. Yeah. Why was that? Why was it so anchored on AI? Like, are they using AI? Like, is like, I don't know.
I think so. I think the really key thing that they're doing is this mastery learning thing.
Okay.
And it's this
like the skill tree thing.
Yeah, it's this idea that like the kid is progressing through this skill tree, and you're not going to wait for them to be past a certain time or teach them based on your schedule. You're going to teach them as fast as they can pick it up.
Yeah.
And you have this detailed skill tree for the full academics as well as for these life skills. I think the AI thing is just how they're able to do that. Yeah. Like historically, if you'd wanted to do that, you'd have to have 10 tutors. Right? And the kid would have to have one-on-one time with 10 different people to go down. And so the AI thing is more like, we now have the technology to do this without 10 tutors to individualize the kid's learning track. But I think that it's more the flipping it on its head and doing the mastery learning than it is the AI specifically that's leading to all the progress. Because if you look at like kids who were tutored back in like, you know, had aristocratic tutors, it was similar. They had this like unbelievable progression. but it's because they were able to like go down these skill trees as fast as they could, as they were motivated, you know, with some kind of supports.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's Montessori at scale.
Yeah.
I feel like everything's going to shift in this direction. But let's come back to this one because I got to use the washroom again.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll wrap.
Okay. Sounds good.
I could easily talk about this.
Yeah.
This is actually more interesting to me than the letter.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go through it. Okay. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thank you.